For decades now, the United States and Canada have shared one of the closest military partnerships in the world. Together, they protect North American airspace through a Cold War-era agreement known as NORAD. But now that partnership is facing fresh pressure over fighter jets and political tensions. The United States is warning Canada, back away from a major weapons deal and the rules of the alliance could change. The U.S. basically threatening to send fighter jets across the border to Canada. Should Canada backtrack on buying fighter jets from America? And the warning coming from the U.S. ambassador to Canada. He says if Canada cuts back on its planned purchase of American-made F-35 fighter jets, Washington may be forced to step in and fly more missions over Canadian airspace. That, he says, could mean rewriting parts of the NORAD agreement. Now, this is the latest in the back and forth between the two sides, the U.S. and Canada, over the deal. In fact, the ambassador cautioning that if Canada purchased fewer fighter jets, the U.S. would fill those gaps in security concerns. And that could mean that America would need to purchase more F-35 fighter jets for its own use and use them to intervene in Canadian airspace more frequently, perhaps. Under the current terms of the agreement, the U.S. and Canada can operate in one another's airspace to track or intercept threats. However, the ambassador is now indicating that the U.S. intervention would go even further should the fighter jet deal change, thus requiring new terms to the Cold War-era agreement. He also told CBC News, I'm quoting, NORAD would have to be altered. Just to put this simply, the U.S. is warning Canada, if Canada cannot defend its skies, America will do it, but on its own terms. And the ambassador's comments come months after the Canadian government, remember, indicated it was reviewing the terms of the fighter jet deal after finding the program to be costlier than expected. In 2022, Canada agreed to buy 88 F-35 fighter jets from Lockheed Martin. The deal was meant to modernize Canada's aging Air Force and keep it closely aligned with the U.S. forces. But the program has run into trouble, to say the least. Last year itself, a government audit found costs had jumped from $19 billion to nearby $28 billion, nearly $28 billion. And that shock pushed Canada to review the deal. And suddenly, what looked like a settled agreement became uncertain. And now Canadian officials are reportedly exploring other options. As per reports, one major option is Sweden's fighter jet. The company behind it has offered to build planes inside Canada, reportedly, promising more than 12,000 jobs. For Canadian leaders, that is an attractive option. And it would mean lower costs, domestic manufacturing of fighter jets, and political support at home. But then for Washington, it's a problem. U.S. officials are saying the F-35 jets are the backbone of Western air power. Designed to work seamlessly with American systems, choosing another jet, they say, would weaken coordination. So much so that the ambassador even called any aircraft that is not an F-35 inferior and less compatible with U.S. forces. So the U.S. is telling Canada, if Canada chooses any other thing, anything other than F-35, it would mean weaker joint defense. And weaker defense means America may step in more directly. And this dispute is unfolding at a rather tense moment in U.S.-Canada ties. Under President Trump, remember, trade disputes, tariff threats have been straining ties. Canada has been hit by levies on key industries, and political trust has also eroded. The tense ties also coming up in the Parliament on Tuesday, with the Prime Minister Mark Carney telling the Parliament that relations with Washington are not normal and warned that the old rules of cooperation are breaking down. And just days ago, at the Economic Forum in Davos, Carney went even further. He said America-led global order is facing a rupture. He cautioned smaller countries against blindly complying with powerful allies. And that speech, of course, angered President Trump and reportedly added fuel to an already tense relationship. The question now is this: who controls North American security? Because for decades now, Canada and the U.S. have shared that responsibility almost equally. The agreement allows both countries, remember, to patrol each other's skies and respond jointly to threats. But then if Canada scales back its air force, that changes things. And the fear basically is that the US would gain more influence and Canada would become more dependent. But defense experts are saying this is about more than just jets. It's also about sovereignty. It's about whether Canada can independently protect its territory. And it's about how much leverage Washington actually holds over its closest neighbor. The US ambassador's warning suggesting that security cooperation may now come with political conditions. Canada insisting it wants both security and economic benefits. So this is no longer just a defense deal, of course. It's become a test, pretty much, of how much independence Canada can actually afford and how much influence the US is willing to exert. The future of North American security may now depend on how the US and Canada deal with this matter. A tragic aviation accident has shaken India. The jet carrying Ajit Pawar, NCP chief and Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, crash-landed today at the Baramati airport, killing him and 4 others, including Captain Sumit Kapoor and First Officer Shambhavi Pathak. As per India's civil aviation regulator, the twin-engine light business jet approached Baramati at 8:18 a.m., missed the runway on multiple occasions owing to poor visibility. While the aircraft was cleared to land at 8:43 a.m., it lost control seconds before touching down, crashing 100 feet short of the runway and erupting into flames. While there was an outpouring of grief from across the political spectrum, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee stirred a row by suggesting a conspiracy in Pawar's death. She called for a Supreme Court-monitored probe, citing an opposition leader's claim that the NCP chief was willing to leave the ruling BJP-led NDA alliance and join the opposition ranks.
A few days ago, I came to know that from social network that somebody from other party, they gave a statement that Ajit Pawar is willing to leave the BJP. And now what happened today, I need proper investigation under the supervision of Supreme Court.
However, the late Deputy Chief Minister's uncle, Sharad Pawar, rubbished the conspiracy theory and urged everyone to not politicize the tragedy. Ajit Pawar's journey started in the cooperative sector. He headed a sugar factory and Pune District Cooperative Bank before winning the Lok Sabha polls in 1991. The 66-year-old leader was elected to the State Assembly in the same year and won the seat 8 consecutive times. He was the longest-serving Deputy CM of Maharashtra, having served in the post 6 times. In November 2019, he created buzz by rebelling against Sharad Pawar and taking oath as the Deputy Chief Minister at 8 a.m. in the morning in a BJP-led government. While the experiment lasted only 80 hours, he succeeded in July 2023 later by joining the NDA government. Pawar not only gained control of the NCP from his uncle, but also led his party to victory in 41 out of 288 constituencies in the 2024 Assembly elections. Prime Minister Modi expressed his grief on Ajit Pawar's demise, citing his vast contribution towards improving life of people, especially in rural Maharashtra.
आज का दिन हमारे लिए एक बड़ा दुख लेकर भी आया है। आज सुबह ही महाराष्ट्र में दुखद विमान दुर्घटना हुई है। इस दुर्घटना ने महाराष्ट्र के उप मुख्यमंत्री अजीत पवार जी और कुछ साथियों को हमसे छीन लिया है। अजीत दादा ने महाराष्ट्र और देश के विकास में अपना बड़ा योगदान दिया है।
And the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has taken over the investigation into the plane crash. Meanwhile, Maharashtra has declared a state of mourning for 3 days. The NCP chief's mortal remains have been kept at a ground in Baramati for the public to pay their respects. And his last rites will be performed with full state honours on Thursday, with Prime Minister Modi and India's Home Minister in attendance. Let's now shift our focus to the UK-China ties, where even before the UK Prime Minister landed in China, security fears seemed to dominate that China trip. The trip by the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, the first by a UK Prime Minister since 2018, in fact, coming at a point when China is being actively courted by Western leaders. British media reporting that Starmer and his entire delegation are using disposable mobile phones, temporary SIM cards, and throwaway laptops to prevent potential surveillance by the Chinese authorities, reportedly. The UK government has instructed the delegation to leave behind all official government equipment and personal devices, fearing they could be compromised by Chinese intelligence. Dozens of new devices have been issued to the Prime Minister, his advisors, policy officials, digital media staff. The concern is rooted in recent incidents with reports claiming that senior aides to previous British Prime Ministers were successfully targeted by Chinese cyber operations. During Salt Typhoon, a Chinese espionage operation accused of infiltrating American telecom networks and potentially enabling Beijing to monitor phone calls at will. And these revelations emerging even as Downing Street publicly denied claims that Starmer's phone had been hacked, insisting that robust communication security measures are in place. Starmer arrived in China on Wednesday evening, leading a delegation of more than 50 British business leaders. He is scheduled to meet the Chinese president and the premier before traveling to Shanghai for talks with corporate executives. The mission is aimed at resetting political and economic ties at a time when relations between the US and its allies are becoming increasingly volatile. Starmer now joining a growing list of global leaders recalibrating their China policy in response to what many are describing as Donald Trump's tariff boomerang. And Canada's Prime Minister recently met with Xi Jinping, where both sides spoke about shaping a new world order beyond US dominance. Finland's leadership has also engaged with China this week with focus on the Arctic, a region where Beijing's ambitions carry major strategic and economic implications. And Donald Trump himself is set to visit China in April 2026, reportedly, after he faced stiff resistance from China, which countered American tariffs by tightening control over rare earth exports, disrupting US supply chains and blunting Washington's pressure tactics. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.